Hey everyone, and first of all, a big thanks to all of you for helping me reach 5k subscribers. You're the reason I keep doing videos. Otherwise, I'd probably just talk to myself while playing games without actually recording it. Anyway, FnaF World has been announced, and that means I have some new material to work off. So how about we discuss what the game's going to be like? FnaF World continues the Freddy's franchise, although in a different genre. How will the transition work from horror to RPG? My guess is that if Scott puts in the required time and effort, the concept could actually work out quite well. If we look at his earlier games, The Desolate Hope and Pilgrim's Progress, we can see that Scott already has some aptitude designing and executing semi-turn-based battles, and the usual RPG mechanics. However, what exactly is the premise for an RPG where the characters come from different eras and sometimes even hallucinations? Scott explicitly stated that all existing variations of the animatronics would be available to play, and he would be modeling entirely new enemies for them to fight. That rules out a Pokemon-style game where the characters are pit against each other. Or does it? More on that later. So is the premise of the game going to be some wacky scenario where the animatronics will team up against the Burble guy, who has decided to create an army of evil robots to take over all the Fazbear's diners and then sneakily murder more children? Oh, and spoilers for that, by the way. Or perhaps we'll venture into a fantasy setting specifically created around the characters, or something different altogether. My money's on that something different. Being a more light-hearted take on the franchise, perhaps FNAF World could take place within arcade machines inside the actual in-game real world, similar to how most of Desolate Hope is actually played within simulations inside the game itself. This way you could easily change between math themes and styles of gameplay. You could have a water level called Foxy's Pirate Adventure or an air map named Gets High with Balloon Boy. You could have both platforming levels and top-down levels, and while each map could be playable by any of the characters, some could have natural advantages in certain maps. Bonnie, for example, being a rabbit, could jump higher than others, while Foxy could run faster, and Chica could glide for a while after jumping. This would help make the characters feel more unique and give the game an authentic RPG feel. Speaking of RPG mechanics, what about level progression, items and turn-based battles? Again, similar to The Desolate Hope, the side-scrollers and top-down levels could essentially be just a build-up to the actual battles, which are played in the standard semi-turn-based format. This would mean that within the so-called minigames, the player would collect upgrades, power-ups and tokens to buy items and skills for his characters. The games could even be used to progressively unlock new characters, so your party won't be overwhelmed with choices right at the start of the game. As for the turn-based battles themselves, first you need the party which you'll use in combat. As Scott has stated, playable characters will be chosen from the existing line of animatronics and assorted other figures. It will be very interesting to see how the child ghost, the endoskeletons and the plastic plate craftings will be included. Maybe some or all of them will be secret unlockables. Anyway, at the start of the game you could be given a portion of the character pool, while the rest you'll have to unlock yourself, for example by meeting them within the games, purchasing them or by defeating bosses. If Scott wants to add more flavor to the party selection, he could have theme bonuses like running an all Chica or all Bonnie party. Adding to that, some battles could be advantageous for Phantom and Nightmare versions, while others are more suited for toy and adventure models. Leveling wise, the characters could gain experience and level up separately, but some catch-up mechanic could be built in where your lowest leveled characters gain an XP boost compared to your highest leveled characters. This would widen your choices in each battle, since you won't have to grind for XP while still maintaining a semblance of variation in character power levels. Your character's levels in turn could be used to determine which areas you are able to explore. Leveling up could for example give you access to skills and items which can be used to unlock new areas, similar to the Batman Arkham games. This way new players won't instantly wander headfirst into the endgame battles, and experienced players can find new ways to interact with the starting areas. How would the actual RPG battles work? Well, I found the combat system in Desolate Hope to have great potential, but to be honest it could use a little less clutter. The fights are not strictly turn-based since the characters wind up their turns in real time based on their speed attribute. This means that you have to act fast in order to stay alive and to actually have an effect in combat. This is okay on itself, but adding minigames on top of all the fighting is too much in my opinion. If party-based power-ups and each character's individual attacks and abilities were the only things to manage during the battles, the fights would become a lot more coherent and enjoyable. The difficulty on endgame bosses could solely come from the player's ability to form combo effects and quickly respond to enemy attacks. What would the enemies be then? Well, since Scott has an affinity for designing robots, presumably we're going to see a host of interesting new contraptions which we'll get to fight. Once again, to add flavor, one of the arcade machines could be strictly dedicated for a Pokemon-style arena mode of sorts, where you can form two different parties, one which you'll use to fight, and another for the AI to use against you. That way we could practice different types of battles while also getting to see how your potential party members could work in a fight against yourself. For a change of pace from platforming, top-down maps and RPGs, the players could also visit the overworld. Similar to the space station in Desolate Hope, the overworld is used to switch between maps, and it can also be explored for secrets and bits of lore. The overworld could essentially be just another Freddy's Diner, or an entire arcade with added food service, and of course wandering animatronics, which would actually be friendly this time around. The player could be a simple kid enjoying himself or herself, maybe a mechanic testing out the machines, or something else to that effect. Since the game won't be horror themed, there's a wide variety of premises available. That's pretty much all the main points of speculation I have about the game. I'd also love to hear if you have any ideas or expectations for FnaF World, since I can't possibly hope to cover everything, especially now that the original story has concluded and we're moving on to a new one. Thank you for watching and see you next time.